Fellas, welcome back to Today in Combat. I'm Bradley Gleason, and we got a good video for you today. We are going to do a couple things. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about last week. 311, Israel Adesanya losing to Nasruddin Imavov. Also, Shara Bullet losing to Michael Venom Page. We'll touch on those a little bit on the front end, but then we're going to really deep dive 312. We're going to talk about the Dricus Du Plesis and Sean Strickland fight number 2, because I'll be honest, upon first watch, I scored it for Dricus. Upon second watch, I get the controversy. It was such a close fight, and I regret only watching it once until this week because fuck. I thought Sean was just talking bullshit. I kind of see his point. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So we're going to talk about that, but also Tatiana Saurez and Zhang Weili is a fantastic fight. High level stuff. We got Tatiana Saurez, who's, I didn't really know the hype of Tatiana Saurez, so I got to deep dive her this week, and I'm glad I did because she is a savage. And then we know Zhang Weili, super fun. She's learning to speak English. She's just such a lovable character, and she's a certified fucking dog. Gave us some absolute wars along the way, and also put on some dominating performances as well. So excited to dig into all those, but let's start with 311. Let's start with last week. Let's start with the freaking dip in the lip, brother. I don't know about you. If you're a nicotine addict like myself, I'm doing Rogue Wintergreen pouches. That is my go-to. A little bit bigger than Zen, a little softer than Zen. Nice on the lip. I used to do the traditional tobacco, and this is a little, I'm 6 milligram 2 times. I don't do the upper. That's weird. If you're going uppy deck, that's odd, bud. Anyways, 311. Fuck, man. Fuck. That's all I have to say about that. Israel Adesanya loses via second round KO to Nasruddin Imavov. Congratulations. Clap it up for Nasruddin. We talked about him last week, didn't really have the name value. If he was going to win this, he needed to do it in impressive fashion to kind of get that rub. A 5-round decision against Israel would have been fine. It would have been impressive, especially if he did it in impressive fashion, but he knocked him out, which gives you this kind of, it makes me at least feel weird inside because I'll be frank with you, I was rooting for Izzy. I love Izzy. Izzy is one of the guys that really got me into the UFC. He's one of the first kind of stars that I grew to love. I remember watching, of course, his second fight with Alex Pereira and him doing the bow and arrow and all that. Like, Izzy has given us some moments that are just unforgettable. Unforgettable. I was buzzing about that for literally like 3 or 4 days after. He's just such a star, and now losing 3 straight. He lost to Sean Strickland, of course, in pretty one-sided fashion. DDP in a fight, he looked good. He gets choked out, and now to get knocked out by Nasruddin. It's just tough. You want him to get back onto that winning road and be the Izzy of old, the Izzy that you love. And I'm not saying he's not there, and I'm not saying he's done. Izzy can do whatever the fuck he wants. But it just sucks as a fan more than anything. Super impressed by Nasruddin and what he was able to do. I was saying in my pre-fight video, he doesn't have a lot of knockouts as of late, but he is powerful, and he showed that off, and he did it in pretty quick and decisive fashion after losing the first round. Like, clearly losing the first round. Came out in the second and put a stamp on it. So super impressive. Puts him in kind of prime position in the middleweight division, which is going to be kind of in focus for the first half of this year. Of course, we have, that fight just happened. We have Dricus Du Plesis and Sean Strickland coming up this week, but also, who else is fighting? Jared Cannonier is fighting Roman Dolidze next week, I believe. They're in the Apex. Marvin Vettori. No, did I lie to you about that? Hold on. Hold the boat. I literally just looked at this. I was like, I'm going to have all these down. It is Jared Cannonier and Gregory Rodriguez. That was my problem. I knew there was something there. Jared Cannonier is fighting next week, and then Roman Dolidze, Marvin Vettori are a couple weeks after that. Neither of those fights have, like, really any sort of they don't matter too much. But I'm just saying the middleweight division is kind of going to shape itself out here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to, obviously Nasruddin moved up the rankings. He's now number 2. Izzy's down to 4. We still have Khamzat Chimaev waiting in the wing. We're going to assume that he's going to get that next title shot. Really, the fights we need booked is Kyle Bahayo versus... I'd love to see him and Rob go. But also, that's another one where you're like, I don't know if I want to see Rob. And again, I'm not saying Rob is done. But you don't... Guys that you like, you just don't want to put them in positions where they're going on losing streaks. And Kyle Bahayo is dangerous. He's a dangerous motherfucker. Jared Cannonier can attest to that. Who do I want to match Kyle up with that I wouldn't be upset with? I've heard Kyle and Nasruddin. I don't hate that. That's a fine fight. It's a title eliminator and would be, especially with Khamzat, I would assume probably fighting in October. That's not terrible, but then you're also kind of killing off one of your potential prospects for a belt. Like, we're going to get into a washing machine of Strickland and DDP. And you know what I want is Kaio gets loser. No, he's been out for so long. I think I heard he fought last in August. He needs a fight. I was going to say he should fight the loser of Strickland and DDP, but he needs a fight. I don't know. You almost have to match him with Rob. I don't know how Rob's recovery is going. I know he's fine, but I don't know if, he broke his jaw. I don't know how much healing time that takes. That was back in, had to have been October, right? In the Middle East. Anywho. The middleweight division is going to get shaken out. We also have Anthony Hernandez and Jared Allen going at it. Brendan Allen, sorry. Jared Allen's a fucking football player. Brendan Allen going at it in a couple weeks as well. So they're going to be in focus for the starting part of this year. That division kind of needs shooken out because it seems like we're going to get a new wave of prospects and killers coming up. Of course, you got Roman Kopilov and Bo Nichols sitting 14-15 right now. So there's some depth there. There's some fun guys coming up aside from the obvious Kaio and Nasruddin. So super exciting, even Fluffy. I mean, the shit he did to Michelle Pereira, god damn. And Roman Kopilov, let's be honest. Bad boy, a bad boy. If he gets past Brendan Allen, that is he's so... I love me some Fluffy, but he's so nonchalant, He's a killer that you don't expect. So that's fun. But main point of that was tough to see Izzy go down. Congrats to Nasruddin. Michael Venom Page and Shara Bullet, that was kind of a bummer, wasn't it? Again, it was one of the things I was worried about was it just becoming a staring contest. MVP style is so fucking frustrating for everybody. For everybody. If you're striking with the guy, it is a problem just because his distance management is second to none. Second to none. And it's not normal. It really is a style that he's hardly ever in range. And when he is, it's just him punching and then getting back out to range. So I'm kind of, I hate to say it, but I'm off the MVP. I was never high on the MVP train. I think last video I said you can just throw him in. Let's put him into fun fights. I'm not necessarily sure that he creates fun fights, which, I'm not trying to knock MVP here. I just wish we saw a little bit more action out of him. I mean, the punch counts, and I tweeted this, the punch counts were atrocious. I mean, it really was like 10, 15... I mean, he might have had 45 total punches in that entire 3-round fight with a guy like Shara Bullet, who a war is available if he wants it. And I get hit or hit and don't get hit. I get that. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's not the most exciting style. But I also thought it was very well could have been a tough night for Shara Bullet. MVP is just so good at what he does. It was a big step up for Shara, so is what it is. There's a couple other fun fights on that card. Vinicius Oliveira versus Said Nurmagomedov. That was a fantastic fight. I thought Vinicius was fucked in the first round. Said was throwing some nasty, nasty kicks, but Vinicius is just a certified dog and just kept pushing that pace, eventually breaking him down and then winning that decision. That was pretty impressive, I thought. Sergey Pavlovich Jairzinho got released off that fight. That kind of sucked for Jairzinho, but, you know. Fariziam, he's putting together a little bit of a nice win streak here too. 1-2 straight. That last fight was a dog fight. Blood was pouring out of Mike Davis. He's coming off of a nasty, nasty, nasty knee to the face of Matt Frevola. So one to watch. He's outside of the rankings looking in right now, but at the in the lightweight division, I mean, it's chock full of fellas, but would like to see what he can do against maybe a higher opponent. Maybe get him into the top 15, but it's just so stacked. I mean, Grant Dawson just broke in, Benoit St. Denis, Jalen Turner. Him and Jalen Turner could be a fun fight. That's a battle of sticks. You know, both tall, skinny guys. That would be a fun fight. I'd like that one. Now we got UFC 312 coming up this week, and people were kind of talking shit about this card, and I get it. It's not the deepest card, but the top two fights are fantastic. The top two fights, Dricus Du Plesis and Sean Strickland. Like I said in the intro, watching it live the first time, I was at a bar, I was with buddies, but I was, pretty locked in. I always am when the fights are on. I scored it for Dricus. Rewatching it, I was not so sure. It was much closer than I remember it being. The second and the third round were as tight as physically possible. Really could have seen it going either way in either of those two rounds. The third in particular was super, super tight. And then Zhang Weili, Tatiana Saurez is such a, Zhang is so fun. She's looked so dominant at times that you kind of feel like she's untouchable. But then you look at Tatiana Saurez, who, again, I started watching in 2020. I didn't really know the hype of Tatiana Saurez. But just being able to watch her this last week, I get it. She is a fucking relentless savage when it comes to wrestling, and I think she has some tools that she can expose Zhang with. We haven't really seen her on the feet a ton, so we'll see how that goes. But if she gets Zhang down, it's tough sledding. But then after that, you're going to get into, I feel we're going to have over under, how many fights are on this card? We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 fights. I bet we get 6 knockouts. Tafa Talasan Tejera, there's going to be a knockout there. It's Talasan's UFC debut coming off the Contender Series. He had a first-round knockout in the Contender Series. And then you got Justin Tafa. Big bangers. Those guys are going to knock each other out. Jimmy Crute, Rodolfo Bellato, same thing. Ride or die, kill or be killed type of fighters. I think that's going to be a knockout. Jake Matthews, Francisco Prada, I feel like could go a little bit different, could go a little bit long, but Prada's definitely heavy-handed. He's coming off a loss to Daniel Zellhuber, and Jake Matthews at times has looked pretty good on the feet. I think that one might go long, could get a late TKO. Jack Jenkins, Gabriel Santos, Tom Nolan, Vyacheslav Laboshov. I think there's going to be really just good, tight fights. We also have Alexandre Topuria. The younger brother of Ilia Topuria is making his UFC debut against a guy with no face, so I don't exactly know who he's fighting. Also making his UFC debut, an Australian boy, Colby Slickness Thickness. Fantastic name. Thickness, a last name, beautiful. Going up against Alexandre Topuria, El Conquistador. I'll be honest, Ilya the Matador, El Matador, it's a better nickname. El Conquistador is not a bad nickname, but it's too many syllables, I think. Conquistador. 4 syllables, that's a lot, The Conquistador. Alexandre Conquistador Topuria. Alexandre. So now we're 8 syllables deep, and we haven't even touched the last name. I feel like it's a lot. I'm just saying. Maybe he could just be like the bull. That would be sick if it was El Matador. And what's bull in Spanish? Let's look that up. Toro. I don't know how I didn't know that. Yeah. El Toro was one of our fantastic little Mexican restaurant in my hometown. Shout out to Muhammad, Illinois, man. You want to stop by, get some decent Mexican, stop by El Toro. That's not even the one I was thinking of either. I lied to you. El Toro was not, at one point was in Muhammad, but didn't last very long. They have a booming franchise in the Champaign area though, so get excited about that. I lied. What is the place in Muhammad called? It's not El Toro. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. You know, it only matters if you just Google Mexican restaurant if you ever find yourself in Central Illinois. But Toro, wouldn't that be sick? El Matador and El Toro, the bull and the Matador. I don't know. Just something to think about. That'd be sick. What weight is he fighting at? I really haven't even looked this up. I feel like my ADHD is on 100 right now, but hopefully I have at least some sort of through line and you're sticking with me here. He's fighting at bantamweight. Interesting, 135, so a division lighter. I actually thought he was bigger too. Isn't he taller? Let's get some stats. Let's get some stats on the young Topuria. I think he's a bigger boy. I can't believe he's fighting 135. He's 5'6". Maybe he's not. I need to see a side-by-side picture of these guys. They're about the same height. I don't know why I thought he was bigger. Actually, Ilya might be an inch taller. So, makes more sense now. I don't know why I thought he was bigger. But we're going to see the young Topuria go at it, see what he's got. I mean, you don't think lightning can strike twice, but how incredible would it be if it did? The Conquistador. Point is, it's not a bad card. It's definitely more of a, like, Australian heavy. There's a ton of people from that region. I'm just looking down the card. New Zealand, Australia, Australia. I mean, there's probably 8 Australians on this card. So it's definitely region heavy, but fun fights. I think there's going to be a lot of knockouts, and the main and co-main are so freaking fun. And of course you got Sean Strickland, who just talks dumb. So the build up to this fight, media day, it's all been fun. The Sean Strickland experience is something special. Of course, the press conference, but media day in particular. And then he's got Alex Pereira in his corner, which is just makes no sense at all, but is kind of funny. And Sean was actually asked about Alex in the media day, and I thought he had a really interesting answer and something that I never really kind of heard about Alex.
Let me tell you something about Alex, which I respect the most about, Alex has all the money. He came to America to land it free. He's not going to get robbed in the fucking, Rio. Well, he might, but he has no reason not to be happy. He should be happy, gets all the women, has all the sports car, but he harbors so much hate in his heart, and a part of me respects that because, it takes a real man to not become soft because money, and Alex just harbors the hate. So, hey, I respect you, Alex.
You think he actually does dislike Dricus for some reason, or is he just wants to back you up?
No, dude. I just think he harbors hate. I think Alex is one of those guys, dude, that he's like a fucking bullet, dude. You just point him in the right direction, and he goes full send.
I found that so interesting because the demeanor of Alex Pereira and what he does in the cage, but outside of the cage, he seems like this kind of happy-go-lucky guy. But then hearing this from Sean, that he just is like a stone cold killer, and even outside he's just harboring I don't necessarily know if I'd call it hate, but is like, I want to kill these people. Those pictures post Glover Teixeira losses, when he's staring down Jamal Hill, when he's staring down Yuri Prohaska, they make more sense now. Like that, those pictures, hearing him describe it as he's just a bullet you point and he goes full send. I thought that was a perfect description because that really is what he's done his entire career. There's always been a target, which is, you know, when he first came into the UFC, he's aimed at Israel Adesanya, got there and won the belt. And then moves up to light heavyweight and is now on a revenge mission for Glover Teixeira, knocks out Jamal, knocks out Yuri twice. I mean, it starts to make a lot of sense what Sean's saying, but he has this, he really has, when he first came into the UFC, he was such a no emotion, you know, it was more believable. Hearing this now, it makes more sense like a year or two ago when he was just this faceless, stone-faced killer. That was the meme about him. Happy, sad, mad, angry. It was just Alex Pereira, stone face. But then over the course of the last year, he's been this kind of happy-go-lucky, fun guy that you'll see on Instagram clips. He's dancing, he's changing tires, he's kicking nuts in Brazil or whatever, or not Brazil, in Korea, doing Alex Pereira things. Hearing this really reminded me of who Alex Pereira is, and I thought it was really interesting, which is why maybe I think that they get along, is they both are just these angry killers. Obviously, Alex has a little bit more devastation in his hands than Sean does. I think Sean respects him a lot. Of course, he put his lights out. So, but they're both just these. I found that really kind of funny and interesting. And I don't exactly know why he's in Sean's corner. You know, he doesn't even speak English, but I like it. It seems like Alex Pereira can do no wrong. He's just popping up in random spots. Doesn't make a difference in the fight against Dricus Du Plesis. I do not know. But boy, is this a good fight. And I actually, you know, I got asked on one of my comments on TikTok probably a couple weeks ago who I picked for this fight. And I said Dricus Du Plesis. That was pre-watching. And I was confident about that. Super, super confident about that until last night. When I rewatched the fight, I am so up in the air on this fight now. Because what Sean Strickland does and what Dricus Du Plesis do, they're the perfect matchup. Because Sean is very precise. He's very you know, he has his way of fighting, stand tall, teeps, jabs. You know, he's not necessarily going to knock you out, although he does have knockouts. He's just going to outpoint you. And Dricus is the opposite, where he's just going to move forward and kind of dog you down. When you play Sean's game, you don't necessarily get the best fights. We saw it with Paulo Costa. You saw it with, you know, you've seen it a bunch of times with Sean Strickland. And the reason that I find this fight so interesting now is because he really was busting Dricus up. Like, Dricus loves overhands and kind of wild exchanges, and Sean is so precise, he was just popping them. By the end of the first round, Dricus' eye was already blown up. By the end of the second, it was completely blown up. And that was just from jabs of Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland did the early damage. Now, as the fight went longer and Dricus just kept being that dog and walking forward and swinging big, he did end up opening up Sean, and it became a real problem. The blood dripping down Sean's face, that kind of feels like a fluke, like it's not going to happen twice, although it could. I thought that was a real issue for Sean later in the fight, in the third and the fourth and the fifth round, where he's, or sorry, in the fourth and the fifth round, where he was having trouble, you know, seeing out of that eye. I mean, there was blood everywhere. Blood everywhere. Just live scoring the fight, I had it for Dricus. Second time scoring, I gave it to Sean. And it really came down to the third round for me. And I don't even know if I was right scoring it. But rewatching it, I was just live scoring. I had Sean round 1. I thought that was pretty clear. Dricus round 2, very close round, but I thought he just did a little bit more. 3 was neck and neck. And when the round ended, I was looking at my paper. Like, I have notes for all these other ones on why they won the round. On 3, I just wrote Sean. I don't know if I was right. I just wrote it because it was just that tight of a line. Dricus won the fourth. That's when he got that big cut over Sean's eye. And then in the fifth, I thought Sean won in the last 30 seconds. Super close back and forth. They were both just kind of swinging. But one thing I'll say about Sean Strickland is he is the greatest fighter in the world in the last 30 seconds. That is the only time in the fight where he throws caution to the wind. You know, you saw it in the Izzy fight. He's just walking him down screaming. You saw it in the Costa fight. He's throwing like jumping fuck. He just starts swinging. I thought that actually won him that fifth round. But it was such a competitive, close fight. You know, such a competitive, close fight. I get the controversy now. This entire time until now, I was thinking Dricus is going to walk away from, you know, he's going to dominate Strickland. You know, just with the run that Dricus has been on, I thought he could just build upon that and be better. Strickland might be just the wrong style for him. I don't know. I'm up in the air. I still feel like I lean Dricus, but then rewatching, go back before this fight and rewatch 1 and 2 and watch how Sean is piecing him up. I mean, just the jab and what he did to his eye in the first 2 rounds, I think he's going to do again. Can Dricus recut him and cause that sort of chaos? I don't know. That seems more like a fluke. Now, if Dricus can get him to the ground and dominate him there, which I think is a real, you know, there's real potential for that, I think he can run away with it. But just trying to outpoint Sean is hard to do. You know, Izzy found that out. Paulo found that out. Standing across from this man, unless you are Alex Pereira and you have nuclear power to put him out, is tough. I think Dricus is the more well-rounded. I think he's the better fighter. But what Sean does well is where Dricus lacks in defense. Just being able to stick him when he's overextending. It really shook me. It shook me. I was so sure until last night. I was so sure Dricus was going to win. And then I rewatched the fight, which is, you know, it sounds stupid. You know, I just had to look at their original fight to be like, I don't know. That was pretty fucking close. I think it's going to be a decision again. And I think I'm going to go Sean. I don't, you know. I think I'm going to go Sean. I just decided right there in that moment. You saw that pause? That was me deciding right then in that moment that it's going to be Sean Strickland that takes the belt back, which is interesting. Don't quote me. I'm telling you it's a close fight. Dricus is the better fighter. But Sean is just, the jab impressed me. And Dricus brings the fight to him, which, you know, in some ways hurts Sean because he does like to be the forward fighter, and Dricus was definitely the one pushing the pace. But he's so good at picking. He's so good at just picking at you. And Dricus does love to overextend, so fuck me, man. That ruins everything for me. I was going to give you a big soliloquy about how if Dricus Du Plesis, you know, once he gets past Sean Strickland, if he can beat Khamzat Chimaev, we're talking about an all-timer. I was going to give you that. The problem with Sean Strickland winning is that Khamzat fucks him up. He fucks him up. And I think Sean will tell you that. I know he talked dumb shit about Khamzat this week, but Khamzat is the wrong style fighter for Sean Strickland. He is going to take him down and beat him the fuck up. That's just a fact. And I think Sean knows that. I think they've trained together, which makes what he said this week even more wild. I think I remember seeing a video of him being like, telling Khamzat to relax in the gym, like take a couple, slow down a bit. I could be wrong about that, but fuck, I can't believe I'm picking Strickland right now. I was certain of Dricus Du Plesis, and I still do think that Dricus, like I said, I think Dricus can win, and I don't want to understate what Dricus has been able to do because it's been impressive. His run, impressive. Has not lost in the UFC since ever. He has not lost ever in the UFC. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fight win streak. And, you know, the names on his resume, as impressive as they come. He's got Darren Till, Derek Brunson, Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya. That's his last 5. And you can play revisionist history if you want. Like, Izzy's on a losing streak. You know, he already beat Sean once. Rob's now lost. Derek Brunson's not even in the UFC. Darren Till's not even in the UFC. But just looking at it on paper and also where they're at in their career when they fought, you can do that. But just looking at it on paper, it is a super impressive resume. And also, he's shown up in some of the biggest fucking moments. Like the fight against Robert Whittaker, I don't think anybody was giving Dricus a chance. Like again, with the Darren Till and the Derek Brunson, it kind of felt like those guys were on their way out. I think Darren had a torn ACL and Derek was just kind of done. You know, it was the later end of his career. I'm not sure. He went to the PFL. I don't think he's still fighting. And if he is, it's not with the PFL, I'm pretty sure of. But when he stepped in with Robert Whittaker, Izzy on the sideline, still holding the belt, all that animosity was building up between the African champion shit that they had going on. And he was standing across from Robert Whittaker, who had been unstoppable outside of Israel Adesanya. Like, really was the second best in the division, and it was not even in question. To go out there and knock him out the way that Dricus did, he put the world on notice with that fight. He put the world on notice. Then he wins the belt against Sean Strickland in a war, a fantastic fight. And then he goes out there and chokes out Izzy. Finally gets that opportunity to settle the score with Israel Adesanya and goes out there and chokes him out. Like, for a guy that is so unorthodox, he looks kind of, his fighting style doesn't look good. You know, he's not a clean striker. He's not an overwhelming wrestler. You can't point to something and be like, yeah, he does this better than anybody. You can't, you know, at least I can't find it with Dricus Du Plesis. But he wins. That's what he does. He wins. And I can't understate what he's been able to do, especially in the positions that he's been put in. The stakes that were on him in that Robert Whittaker fight and what he went out there and did, so fucking impressive. I cannot believe I'm actually still, I'm almost mad at myself for picking Sean Strickland in this fight, because I do think Dricus is the better fighter. Fuck me. I can't believe I said that, man. I have to stick to it now. I'm riding Sean. Also, I'll give myself a little bit of a break here. Sean Strickland might be just a different animal in Australia. I mean, he went out there and put on a 5-round clinic against Israel Adesanya. Australia clearly loves him. He's a star in Australia. They are behind him. I think that might be his home away from home. I know he lives in Vegas, but when he's in Australia, it feels like he's got the hometown crowd. And again, probably his best performance of his life was against Israel Adesanya in Perth. So we'll see if he can re-spark that here in the Great Down Under in Sydney this time. But fuck me, man. I can't believe I did that. It is true, though. If Dricus beats Sean and then goes on and beats Khamzat, because I think that's a way better fight. The fight between Dricus and Khamzat is super interesting. It's way more interesting than the fight with Sean. Sean might get fucking killed. I'm just thinking about it now. Sean, you know, the next fight's going to be in Abu Dhabi or in Saudi Arabia. Sean, I don't even know if he's allowed in that country. Yeah, I mean, a Sean Strickland press conference, especially with the way he's been talking about Khamzat in the Middle East, hire some extra security. Please, for the love of God, if that happens. Oh my, I can't even imagine. I don't know if they're allowed to let that happen. This might be a rigged fight they might force, you know, if this goes to decision, it might be forced into the hands of Allah. Because I don't think we can put Sean Strickland in the Middle East. I don't think it'll be allowed. I really don't. Although a lot of his ideology probably lines up pretty close. You know? Fuck, man, that's hilarious. I really don't think that's going to be. I think we're going to have to get Hamza out of visa before we put Sean Strickland in the Middle East. I really do. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Tatiana Saurez, Zhang Weili. This fight is as good as it gets in fighting. I mean, Zhang Weili, she's been running the top of this division for a hot minute now. I mean, she had the back and forth with Rose. She lost twice. You know, lost the belt to Rose and then got beat again. But then re-won it against Carla Esparza, and then I'm trying to find my sheet here with the Zhang Weili on it. Re-won it against Carla Esparza, absolutely dominated Amanda Lemos, and then had a really, really fun fight with Yan Xiaonan where we kind of got to see that heart. Like I said, Zhang Weili is a dog. She's gave us some wars. Obviously, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, first fight was an absolute war. Second fight, I believe it was a spinning back fist, KO'd her, disgusting. But then gave us a really, really fun fight with Yan Xiaonan. Tatiana Saurez is an interesting case. She's an interesting case because, again, you heard the rumblings. When Tatiana Saurez came back, I think in 2023, after a long layoff, you heard the rumblings like, this girl is disgusting. And again, me as I'll call myself a newer UFC fan, 2020 post. I've been a really hardcore fan for about 4.5 years now. I didn't know Tatiana Saurez because I'd never really seen her fight. Like, she's only fought twice in the last 4 years, both being in 2023. One was at 125 and one was at her weight class of 115. And I'm not saying I wasn't paying attention, but it wasn't like, you know, just with the lack of activity, you kind of forget about people. And I didn't see her on the come up. So having the opportunity this week to watch Tatiana Saurez work, she's a bad motherfucker. I'll tell you, she's a bad motherfucker. And I think she does exactly what Zhang Weili doesn't do, which is why I'm leaning Tatiana in this fight. One thing that sticks out of my head when I think of Weili is her second fight against Rose. Obviously, the first fight, she gets head kicked. That can happen to anybody. The second fight against Rose, she quite literally lost that fight because she got stuck on her back. Rose in the fourth and the fifth round almost completely, but at the very end of the fourth round, into the fifth round, she was on her back for 7 minutes and just couldn't get up. So I remembered that after watching, because I watched Tatiana's fights first. I remembered that, and it was just sitting in the back of my head. I was like, fuck, I know that Weili got stuck on her back. Maybe she shored that up. Then I go on and I watch the Carla Esparza fight, which she handled pretty quickly. 2 rounds, choked her out. But there was a moment where Carla was on her back, or Carla got Weili on her back. Weili didn't get up. Carla got off. Then in the Yan Xiaonan fight, Yan doesn't really wrestle at all. But she still had 3 minutes of control time on Zhang Weili. When Weili's on her back, she is no bueno. No bueno. Which worries me for her because I love me some Zhang Weili. I think she's been a fantastic champ. I think she's a dog. I think she's better overall, skilled, skill to skill. She's better than Tatiana Saurez. But Tatiana, her wrestling pedigree is second to none. And she's gonna wrestle. Let's just make that clear. She is relentless for those takedowns. She chains them together. If Weili gets out of one, she's gonna keep wrestling. She's gonna hold tight clinches. She's gonna throw knees, and then she's gonna go back for another takedown. Even watching through her fights, I don't know how she looks on the feet because you barely ever see her there. She is single track minded. I'm not saying she can't strike, but Weili's going to hold the advantage there undoubtedly. Undoubtedly, Weili's going to hold that advantage over Tatiana on the feet. But Tatiana's not going to let it be on the feet for long. And if she does get stuck on the feet, then I think it's going to be a pretty one-sided fight. But if Tatiana gets her down, It's going to be a long, long night for Weili because just watching through her fights, she has not appeared to have very good defense and or ability to get up off her back. And Tatiana's a big girl. She's a big girl for 115. She's not Rose Namajunas. Like, she's going to stick her. Which really, you know, Tatiana, 10 fight, she's on a 10 fight winning streak, never lost, 10-0, hasn't fought in 2 years. Hasn't fought in a year. Has been stricken with injuries all over the place. Had a bout with thyroid cancer. She's a very impressive woman. And 9 times out of 10, with her resume even being undefeated, I would say lack of activity would be a real problem here. But I just think that she does exactly what Zhang Weili does not. Like, she puts her in the worst position. She can put Weili in a position where she is just hopeless in my mind. And I hate saying this because I love Zhang so much. She's such a fun fighter. She is a dog. And again, if she somehow shores up some takedown defense and can keep Tatiana off of her, Tatiana's never gone 5 rounds. She's gone 3 a couple times, and she did look good. She didn't look gassed out, but she's never gone 5. I mean, she tends to finish pretty quick, and in the times that she did go long, it was just a grueling, wrestling, beat-up sesh. She's only lost 1 round in the UFC, and it was to Nina Nunes on the fight that she hurt her neck. So I don't know how much you can attribute either way. You know, after that fight, she was out for 3 years healing off a neck injury. So I don't know how much you can actually attest to that, but she did get kind of pieced up on the feet after that. And I'm not going to say nearly finished, but beat up in the 3rd round of that Nina Nunes fight. But just looking at Tatiana's resume, again, I feel like a lot of people, unless you've been really deep into the UFC for 10, 15 years now, you might not know Tatiana Saurez like you do know Zhang Weili. Jessica Andrade, her last time out, submission choke, 2nd round. Guillotine choke, 2nd round. Montana De La Rosa, again, a guillotine choke, 2nd round. That was up at 125 against a bigger girl, still took her down. Nina Nunes before that, that was back in 2019. Again, big gap between these. Carla Esparza in 2018, Alexa Grasso in 2018. She's got 3 champions. I mean, again, I guess Carla was champion before she was a former champion when she fought Tatiana. But Alexa Grasso wasn't the Alexa Grasso we know and love. Jessica Andrade, kind of on the back end of her year, of her tenure. She's got great names on her resume, although it's been few and far in between. She is relentless. She is really relentless. Again, I think this is a, you know, in the media day, people were calling it a striker versus wrestler matchup, and Tatiana corrected him and saying this is an MMA fight. I'm well-rounded, blah, blah, blah. It's a striker versus wrestler. Make no mistake, Tatiana is not going to stand or choose to stand with Weili if she doesn't have to. She's going to go back to what she knows, and that's dominating on the ground. And I think Weili is going to be in for a long, long night. It'll be interesting if it gets into later rounds, if it makes it to the 4th, to the 5th, how Tatiana stands up to that. But I really think that this could end, and it could end relatively quickly. Which I hate to say because I do love Weili. But a fun fight card nonetheless. I've been going for too long. That was an ADHD masterpiece by me. Hopefully there was at least some sort of through thread in there that you could have followed along. But I'm pretty excited for this card. I would say overall, I'm probably like a 7 out of 10. You know, I always gauge this off of how willing I am to spend $80 on it. The answer is every time, doesn't matter, yes. But like when I'm matching it up to this is an $80 purchase, how excited I am for this. I think these top 2 fights are as good as it gets and could potentially be especially the Dricus Sean Strickland fight. I think that's going to be a very close fight again. I think the Zhang Weili Tatiana Saurez is going to go one way or the other. Either they're standing, either Weili can figure out how to keep it standing. It's going to be a bad night for Tatiana, or Tatiana does what she does, and it's going to be a bad night for Weili. But then before that, I think we're just getting knockouts. I really do. I think it's going to be a fun card in Australia. Overall, I'm pretty excited. 7 out of 10. So, thank you again for watching, listening. Like, subscribe, drop a comment. Tell me who you think's going to win. Tell me who you thought won the first fight against Dricus and Sean Strickland. Because, again, first round watching it, I said Dricus. Second time watching it, I said Sean. I don't know which one's right. Honestly, the fight was that close. So drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And peace, love, happiness.